Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. On the day my mom and dad got kidnapped, my brother Mike, who's a cop, was supposed to go bungee jumping with a rich girl, Chelsea. I didn't tell him to go help our parents. Instead, I immediately called the police to get the ransom money ready. In my past life, Mike didn't go with Chelsea to rescue our parents. Because of that, when she went bungee jumping, her rope broke and she fell. They never found her body. After that, Mike was really quiet. Then, on my birthday, he drugged me and took me to the same cliff. He said I planned the kidnapping, that I was trying to get all the attention, calling me a demon. He said Chelsea was dead and I shouldn't be alive either. When I woke up, I was back on the day my parents were kidnapped. This time, Mike didn't try to save them. He rushed off to be with Chelsea. But later, he regretted it so much it was like he went crazy. I opened my eyes, suddenly covered in sweat. My heart was beating so fast it felt like it would explode. I still felt like I was falling, and then I saw my room, the one I knew so well. I looked at the clock. I was back. I'd gone back in time to the day my parents were kidnapped. In 5 minutes, the kidnappers would call. They'd say we had 1 hour to get the ransom money or they'd hurt our parents. I'm Jenny, and I'm the daughter who was lost for 18 years. I'd only been back with my mom and dad for less than a year, and they meant everything to me. I couldn't let what happened before happen again. I ran downstairs to wait by the phone. Mike, dressed in his police uniform, was right behind me. Ginny, why are you so jumpy? Who are you trying to impress? Mom and Dad aren't even here. He smirked a little. Were they kidnapped by you? At that moment, I was sure he'd gone back in time too. His look seemed to say, stop trying, it's no use. Without our parents, this whole act will be over even faster. In my last life, Mike was convinced I'd planned the kidnap to get attention and make our parents focus on me. I had no idea why he thought that. This time, Mike decided to completely ignore my plan. Ginny, don't say I didn't warn you. Causing trouble is still a crime. When you get caught, don't come crying to me for help. I wanted to say something, but the phone started ringing, cutting me off. Every ring felt like a stab in my heart, but Mike didn't seem to hear it at all. Before leaving, he looked at me with a bit of disgust. Do whatever you want. I'm going with Chelsea to go bungee jumping anyway. They won't really get hurt. Don't bother me unless it's important. He didn't say that in my last life. Back then, using all the skills he'd learned as a cop, Mike found the kidnappers' hideout quickly. In just an hour, he brought our parents back safe and sound. That day, I was so worried about our scared parents that I didn't notice the suspicion and anger hidden in Mike's eyes. Later, when I was tied up at the cliff's edge, I finally understood. While he was rescuing our parents, Chelsea had called him over and over. Mike didn't answer, so she went bungee jumping alone. An accident right now, the ringing phone felt like it was counting down to something terrible, making me really anxious. I answered it, and the kidnapper's voice was clear. 20 million, get it ready in 2 hours or your parents are dead. I stared, shocked. In my last life, it was only 10 million. I held the phone tight, sweat running down my face. It seemed like things were a little different in both lives. The kidnappers might be hiding somewhere else. I'd been so sure, but suddenly I started to panic. I pleaded, my voice shaking. Can you give me a little more time? They hung up right away. I quickly calmed myself down. I knew being weak wouldn't help with these guys. The most important thing was to get the money and find out where they were. I wrote down what I remembered from my last life on a piece of paper. There were 2 kidnappers, both young guys, and the kidnapping happened at one of their houses. The ransom was 10 million, and they wanted it put in the 3rd trash can at the south entrance of the train station. Before the kidnappers could get the money, Mike had found their hideout and saved our parents. Thinking about this, I immediately dialed 911. I also called my dad's good friend, Uncle Leo, who has a big share in the company, asking the finance people to get the cash ready. Leo was as panicked as I was on the phone call. The police, Jenny, I'll take care of the money. Finally, I felt a little bit relieved. 2 minutes later, the local police showed up. My brother's coworker and good friend Tom walked in looking annoyed. Ginny, your brother just called me. Luckily, I'm close by, he said. Making a false report is against the law. All my courage and hope just disappeared. Mike thought I was behind the kidnapping, so he sent his friend to handle it. He wanted to stop my so-called crazy behavior. Without the police and without an expert to find the location, how could I fix this? I couldn't hold back my feelings anymore. I dropped the clues I was holding, thinking about my parents being hurt by the kidnappers. I broke down crying. Officer Tom, I'm not lying. I'm an adult and I know what I'm doing. Please, I need the police's help. I need you to help me save my parents. I cried so hard I could barely breathe, constantly checking the clock. Almost 10 minutes had gone by, and there wasn't much time left. Tom leaned on the sofa, casually looking at his phone. When he saw me crying, he didn't show any sympathy. They say kids from orphanages are really sneaky. Do you think crying can make people feel sorry for you? Your brother is right. Kids who aren't raised right just don't get it. They don't care, he added. Chelsea is much more understanding than you. Chelsea was like me, but she had better luck. Our parents adopted her when she was 8, and she was raised like a princess. Especially our brother, he cared for her almost obsessively. Even after we were both adults, they still often slept in the same room. The ticking clock brought me back to reality. I forced myself to stop feeling so upset. Secretly taken photos not just of my parents but also of me. They've been watching the area for a long time. Don't worry, these two won't get away. My mind was about to explode. The worst thing I was afraid of had finally happened. The kidnappers had moved where they were keeping the hostages. This meant all my clues were now useless. Tom was on the side calling my brother. Even though he tried to keep his voice down, I could hear him clearly. It's really a kidnapping. We have suspects now. Hurry back. On Mike's end, he actually started laughing. His words seemed meant for me to hear. Stop it. The bigger you make this, the harder you'll fall when the time comes. And your parents are embarrassed and don't want you anymore. Don't cry, okay? Fear and anger from my last life rushed through me. Even though he hated me, his sister, who he'd only recently found, at times like this I shouldn't even believe what others say. I wasn't at fault, and neither were my parents. They had cared for their son for over 20 years. Yet now, to be with a rich girl, they had put their safety at risk. If my parents knew, I don't know how heartbroken they would be. I felt it was unfair to them. As I wiped the tears from my eyes, the phone at home suddenly rang loudly. The officer in charge of listening gave me a look. My heart raced. The kidnappers had called again. The officer gave me an okay sign. My whole body shook as I picked up the phone. A nearby officer handed me a note. By the time I immediately took a deep breath, and even though I was sobbing, I started to speak. I'm getting the money ready. Please don't hurt my parents. On the other end, the kidnapper laughed rudely. Then hurry up. You have 1 hour. If time runs out, I'll cancel the deal. Another officer handed me a note. Where should the money be sent? And after I send the money, where should I go to get my parents? The kidnapper's tone was clearly annoyed. Send the money to the locker inside the station. Don't worry about your parents. Once the money is there, they will come back to you right away. My head was pounding, and the payment location was different from my last life. I tried to talk as much as possible to help the officers find the source. Are my parents okay? Can I hear their voices? The kidnapper cursed. You're so annoying. Immediately, I heard my parents' weak voices. Jenny, Daddy and Mommy can find you. There are no regrets in this life. Don't risk your life for us. Take care of yourself. Mom wants to tell you that Daddy and Mommy love you more than you can imagine and want to make it up to you. It's just that sometimes we don't know how to show it. My father's old voice came through. Sweetie, Daddy regrets losing you when you were 2 years old. If I had the chance, I would apologize to you in person. When I opened my mouth, I choked, unable to say complete sentences. I wanted to say that I didn't need their apologies. I just wanted them to be safe. Please be patient and wait for me. I will definitely save them. The kidnapper interrupted the conversation. He kicked something, his words nasty. You old man, so much talking. Rich people are just dramatic. Hurry up and send the money or I can't promise your parents will get home safely. After he hung up, everyone looked at me and shook their heads. They couldn't find the location. The kidnappers used technology to block it. My worry and fear exploded again. So much information swirled in my mind. This money must be sent. At least it can make sure my parents are safe. I immediately took out my phone and called Leo. He agreed to help me get the cash, but no matter how many times I tried to call, the phone wouldn't connect. As I was dialing that number for the 100th time, my phone rang. My brother Mike's laughter came through clearly. "You've acted enough, it's time to stop." I instantly became alert. "What did you tell Leo?" Mike laughed very calmly. "Of course, I told him not to give you the money. That's 20 million. Even if it's just acting, he wouldn't give it to you easily." He added, "I told Leo that you're just scheming. As soon as you came back to the family, you wanted to take all the money. He won't listen to you." At that moment, all my hope vanished. I felt like a balloon that had lost all its air, completely losing the will to live. Without those 20 million, there was no chance my parents would survive. I had read the case report from my previous life. Those two men had already killed before. Naturally, they didn't care about killing a couple more. If the money wasn't there, they would really hurt my parents. The phone rang again, and the kidnapper's impatient voice pierced my heart like a sharp knife. "If you don't send the money soon, I'll cancel the deal right now." An invisible hand squeezed my heart tightly. Sweat rolled down my forehead like rain. The ticking of the clock hit against my heart with each second. I took the note, my lips shaking. "Time isn't up yet. We're getting money from different banks." I added, "You're asking for too much. We need to go to more banks." The kidnapper laughed rudely. "The family has such a big business, but you don't even have this much cash?" I was so nervous that I couldn't dare to talk carelessly. In those few seconds, I suddenly heard the familiar sound of a train whistle in the background. The officer also noticed and signaled that I needed to buy more time. "Let me hear your parents' voices again. I need to make sure they're safe." The kidnapper's anger was clear. "But do you really think you're a princess? Everyone will do what you want. Last 30 minutes. If we don't see the money, you won't see your parents either." The call was cut off, and the time was shortened to 30 minutes. As expected, being reasonable with the kidnappers was impossible. The surroundings were chaotic, with helpful police officers assisting me in contacting banks to quickly get cash. Meanwhile, I bit my lip tightly, closed my eyes, and remembered the moment before he hung up. I was sure I heard it. The brief 2 seconds sounded like a ghostly cry carried through the hall. I immediately grabbed. The officer next to me helped me replay the recording of the last few seconds quickly. Everyone was surprised by my request, but they did it and played the recording. Immediately, they heard that eerie wind sound at the end of the call, like a ghost's cry. I suddenly stood up. I know where my parents are. At first, the police officers didn't dare to trust me easily. After I gave concrete evidence, they immediately led a team to the scene. The orphanage where I had lived for 10 years was located next to an abandoned factory on the edge of the city. Trains carrying coal or wood passed by every day. The first one was at 6:10 a.m., then 10:30 a.m., and the last one at 8:30 p.m. The time between them was never more than 10 minutes. After checking, the times I gave matched perfectly. I was even more familiar with that abandoned factory. Every day my friends and I would go out to play there. The factory was surrounded by concrete walls, but the north and south walls had 2 big holes. Every time a train passed by, the changing wind felt like the spirits of the dead, as if it could rip a person's soul from their body. My friends and I would scream and excitedly run against the wind. That was almost the only fun thing in my childhood, so I was absolutely certain that the kidnappers would be there. "Ginny, just stay at home and wait. Don't worry, we will definitely bring your parents back." I trusted the police's abilities, but I had to see my parents first. Otherwise, even if I stayed at home, I would be on edge every minute. "Officers, please take me there. My parents and I just got back together not long ago, and I really don't want to be separated from them again." As if persuaded by my plea, I was finally put into a police car, sitting in the very back. The dark suburbs looked like a scene from the end of the world. To avoid alerting the kidnappers, we kept a great distance before getting out of the car. The patrol officer stealthily entered the area in the dark. Soon after, sounds of a struggle echoed, and one suspect was completely subdued and brought out. I broke free from the officer's control, ignoring their protests, and sprinted toward the scene. I had to be the first to see my parents and make sure they were safe. Everything in the darkness was invisible. Suddenly, a burst of car headlights illuminated my path from behind. My eyes darted urgently, my heart about to leap out of my throat. "Dad! Mom!" Finally, I saw my parents in a corner of the factory, their clothes torn. I rushed over and hugged them, tears streaming uncontrollably. blurring my vision, but I still saw the same excited expressions on my parents' faces. Dad and Mom, I finally found you in this life. I had finally saved you with my own strength. The lingering fear after the ordeal and the joy of reunion made me tremble all over. Just as I was about to take the rag from my parents' hands, I saw Dad glaring at me from behind. I turned around and saw another suspect holding large pliers, his cunning eyes gleaming. From the darkness you dared to call the police. That and died together. The moment the pliers dropped, I didn't feel any pain. Instead, everything turned blood red. When my dad was brought onto the ambulance, he was already unconscious, still calling out my brother's name. My mom also passed out from excessive fright. As the red lights in the operating room turned on, I stood alone. My brother Mike and Chelsea walked up to me holding hands. What's going on? Normally you just cause trouble, but how did you even hurt Dad? I looked at him coldly, too exhausted to argue with him. I simply said in a detached manner, "The kidnappers did it." My brother immediately started jumping in place. "The actor you found still dared to hurt someone? What kind of people are we, the Miller family? Dad and Mom really let you back in their minds like fools." Chelsea looked very pleased beside me. "You've gone too far. I told you you'd eventually be the one to screw things up. What's biological and what's not? You're no better than I, the adopted one." Mike placed his hand gently on her face, looking very affectionate, showing no concern for our parents at all. Even now, the two of them still believed I was acting and kept humiliating me. A police officer responsible for handling the case approached. "Ginny, please sign the statement. Don't worry too much. Your uncle will be fine." Mike snatched the statement from me, and the officer was taken to see him. "Mike, where have you been? Do you know what your parents went through? Your sister almost got hurt too." Mike read the statement but still looked incredulous. "Not again. You're going to say you found actors? This one is actually a colleague you see every day." I stood up and glared at Mike. "You better pray that my parents are okay. Otherwise, I'm not done with you." All the accumulated anger and resentment from both lives exploded. Mike clearly showed a hint of panic but quickly forced himself to appear calm again. Chelsea stood in front of him trying to appear brave. "Don't blame him. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Anyway, Dad and Mom are too stubborn to talk to me. So in the end, you're the one getting scolded." Chelsea looked determined. "How can you compete with me? I think you were deliberately abandoned when you were 2 years old. You're a bastard that Dad and Mom didn't want." I couldn't hold back any longer. I stood up and slapped her. A sharp sound echoed, and everyone present was stunned. "You say I'm okay, that I don't hold grudges, but Dad and Mom would never intentionally abandon me." I had to thank the kidnappers. In the face of life and death separation, the wall between my parents and me had finally collapsed. I understood their guilt for losing me and their deep unspoken love. Mike, furious, shielded Chelsea in front of him. "You're just..." He stopped mid-sentence as if recalling the consequences of his words. "The surgery is over. Family members, please come in." Mike and I both rushed toward the doctors. Perhaps by the grace of heaven, the blood lots in my dad's brain were removed, and he woke up a week later. The first thing he did upon waking was to call a lawyer to change his will. We stood in a line at the doorway waiting while Mike was visibly agitated. "Mom, why is Dad acting like he treats us like outsiders?" After the last incident, my mom's attitude toward Mike had also changed. She seemed sulky, never showing a pleasant face. "I let you wait because I said so. He is your dad. Do you still want to be his master?" Mike hit the ground running, then gave up and couldn't argue, so we ran to the side to smoke a cigarette. Chelsea quickly stepped forward to make amends. "Mom, the lakeside villa is too cold. Can I move back?" She didn't mention what I almost forgot. A month ago, Chelsea falsely accused me of drugging the desserts our family made, causing her to have a stomach bug. She claimed I was vying for attention and ostracizing her, refusing to live in the same space as her. She wanted to move out and insisted on registering a villa in her name by demanding it from our parents. Now that she had the house, she was trying every possible way to get it back. Such a good thing doesn't happen in this world. My mom's expression didn't look pleased at all. "I can't make decisions on this. Dad has the final say." However, Chelsea seemed determined after hearing this, looking at me with obvious provocation. I pretended not to see her. I had experienced similar situations too many times. When I first returned to the Miller family, I appeared somewhat clumsy due to my inability to adapt to high society life, and Chelsea constantly ostracized me. She said I was unintelligent, lacked the upbringing of a rich girl, and couldn't hold my own. But my academic performance was better than hers, and I attended a key national engineering university. I could cook and take care of myself well, often making various small desserts to cheer up our parents in my spare time. I also volunteered, helping autistic children and stray animals. In contrast, Chelsea, the pampered one, had no real abilities besides a bad temper. Most of the time, she had to rely on our brother for support. I watched Mike, who looked worried from a distance. Now it seemed her support wasn't as solid as before. After about 2 hours, the lawyer finally pushed the door open. Mike was the first to rush in and collapse onto the hospital bed. "Dad, I really had something come up that day, which is why I couldn't save you. I'm so sorry. I regret it so much." A flicker of displeasure crossed Chelsea's face as she also leaned over the hospital bed. "Dad, you're okay now. You really scared me to death." These two were quite good at pretending to be filial sons. Chelsea even feigned tears on the spot. Unfortunately, my dad was as clear-headed as if he had a new brain. Waving his hand, "Everyone sit down. Stop surrounding me and nagging." Both of them froze for a moment. In the past, my dad would have been moved to tears, staging a warm fatherly scene of filial piety. Now he was as calm as an outsider. I stepped forward and poured a glass of warm water for my dad. He took it to soothe his throat. His complexion softened considerably. "You all know what happened yesterday. If it weren't for Jenny, I might not have survived." My mom immediately wrapped her arms around my shoulders, and I comfortingly patted her. "It's okay, it's all over now." My brother immediately jumped in to argue that she was just answering the phone and buying time. It wasn't just about talking. My dad's face darkened again. "Where were you when I was kidnapped? What did you do?" Mike was left speechless. Chelsea, unable to behave herself, jumped in. "Dad, I was trying to hurry back." It was all Mike insisting that Dad is a good person with fate on his side, so there would definitely be no problem saying such things. At this moment, it was like stepping on a landmine. Only someone who had been kidnapped would know that it was truly a life-and-death situation. Mike opened his mouth to explain. "I thought Jenny was acting. She always loved vying for attention with Chelsea. I thought she was trying to deceive me into coming home." In this rebirth, Mike's misunderstanding of me was still profound. He always believed I was deceiving him. I saw my dad's eyebrows knit together. His anger without fury was intimidating. Who would joke with their parents' lives? "Mike, you think Jenny is as clueless as you are? You two have been bullying her together, and she's tolerated it because she didn't want us to worry. When will you understand your sister's sincere intentions?" When Mike heard the word sister, it was as if a switch in his body had been flipped. He suddenly stood up. "My only sister is Chelsea." The next second, a sharp slap landed on his cheek. My mom, harboring anger for a long time, stunned everyone present. "Then you and she can get out of the Miller family together." My brother was completely stunned by the slap and only regained consciousness after a long moment. "Mom, what are you saying? I'm your biological son." My mom's gaze pierced deep into Mike's heart. "So what if I'm your biological son? What were you doing in a critical moment? You were out hiking with your sister. Do you know that, Dad, and I almost died." After speaking, my mom was so agitated she could barely breathe. I supported her, patting her back, and it took a while for her to catch her breath. "You've been given the house, and after raising you for so many years, we don't seek anything in return. Chelsea, from now on, stay away from the Miller family as much as possible." After speaking, my mom started crying. I knew she must have thought about this decision countless times in her heart. Mike looked helplessly towards my dad, receiving only an angry glare in return. "Dad," my dad interrupted him. "All you wanted was for Jenny to leave the Miller family. You wanted to mix with Chelsea openly and properly. The thing I fear most is Jenny stealing your status and affection." Mike was completely dumbfounded. His inner thoughts were fully exposed, standing naked in front of everyone. "I don't think that, Chelsea, and you have anything going on that I don't know about. Even if you don't share blood relations, that's morally corrupt. It turned out Dad knew everything. The affair between a son and an adopted daughter, if exposed, would be a family disgrace. We and Chelsea are mutually in love. A perfect match made in heaven. Mike was still stubbornly arguing, watching my dad's anger continuously rise. I quickly went over to adjust the 4-drip speed for him. Dad, please calm down. The doctor said not to get too excited. My dad patted my hand with a loving gaze towards me. His words pointed at Mike. The one who should apologize the most is Jenny. Do you think I didn't know what happened 18 years ago? I felt as if I was frozen, startled by an instinctive thought in my mind. Mike was also scared. His lips quivered as he said, "Jenny," and his breathing became rapid. My dad sighed deeply and pulled me into his arms while my mom began to sob softly. "Jenny, you are not a child that Dad and Mom don't want. Nor are you the mischievous one who got lost. You were deliberately lost by your brother when he took you out." My mom's sobbing was heart-wrenching. "After you came into our lives, your brother has been desperately vying for attention. He hates that we pay too much attention to you," she added. "It's all Dad and Mom's fault. They could only let him take you that day because of some incident. It was Dad and Mom's negligence." My face turned pale instantly. The truth was like a bomb exploding in the softest part of my chest. Before, I still felt a bit guilty about Mike's self-blame, but now it was completely wiped away. Mike lowered his head and suddenly laughed loudly. "So you all knew, huh? After all these years, this matter has finally been discovered. I just hate her sticking to you all the time. She's a clueless kid who doesn't understand anything," he added. "She was abandoned on the street." In a flash, my anger was like a fierce beast. I almost rushed to Mike in a second, roaring at him. "I didn't understand anything back then. What right did you have to decide my fate?" Chelsea firmly blocked me, still defending him. "He was just a kid. Who would hold a child accountable for mistakes? Don't be so pretentious." Mike was already 10 years old at that time. He wasn't immature. He was purely malicious. He didn't want another person to take away his affection. But by the time Chelsea came, he was almost an adult. My mom held me as I was about to collapse. "Sweetheart, all of this is over. We will never separate from you again." Seeing me so distressed, my dad's anger also rose. "These are the facts as they are. Your mom and I have decided that when we grow old." He paused. "All the family property will be inherited solely by Jenny. You and Chelsea go wherever you want. Don't come back to the Miller family anymore." Mike couldn't believe what he saw before him. He knelt again in front of the hospital bed. "Dad, I'm also your biological son. If you don't want me to be with Chelsea, I'll make her leave now." Hearing that all the property was left to me, Mike panicked. He was even willing to sacrifice his sister, whom he had so carefully nurtured. Chelsea stood her ground and also knelt in front of the hospital bed. "Dad, I didn't mean to embarrass you. My brother forced me to be with him. He made me move out to threaten you into buying a house. He taught me to frame Jenny to gain sympathy." Chelsea shed 2 clear tears as she spoke. Clearly more skillful, Mike could only glare at her angrily. "Dad, I'm also a member of the Miller family. I've lived here for over 10 years. You can't kick me out," she added. "I should have a share of the family fortune too." Seeing that his beloved sister was also trying to seize the family property, Mike's face suddenly changed. "You have no blood relation to the Miller family at all, so why? Raising you for so long was already a favor. You don't deserve to inherit the family fortune." He lost control while reprimanding Chelsea just like he used to reprimand me. My dad scolded him sternly. "You don't deserve it either. You blamed Jenny for the hatred from your previous life, causing your biological sister to fall off a cliff. You have no blood ties in your heart." Upon hearing this, both Mike and I were stunned. It seemed that after my dad's head was hit hard, he gained some memories from his previous life. He knew about Mike killing me. Seeing that all of Mike's misdeeds were exposed, he decided to go all out and threaten our parents. "Leaving the house empty-handed is impossible unless you give me a large sum of money. Only then can I consider supporting you in your old age." He stood up, looking at me disdainfully. "This guy is completely unreliable. When you're old, you still have to depend on me." My dad directly cut off his thoughts. "Tonight, you have to move out of the villa. or I'll have the bodyguards carry you out." He added, "After ruining your biological sister twice, how can I expect someone like you to take care of me in my old age? You'd better thank the heavens if you don't push me off the cliff." Mike's gaze gradually darkened. I was afraid he might do something out of the ordinary, so I held a thermos to shield my parents. "I will take good care of Dad and Mom. I will never become an ungrateful brat like you." Even though Mike was furious, he didn't dare to cause trouble in the hospital in broad daylight. He left the hospital room with the words, "You'll regret this." Chelsea didn't follow him. She continued to kneel on the ground, pretending to be pitiful. "Dad, Mom, look at me. I'm Chelsea, I'm your daughter," she pleaded. "It was all my brother's idea to move out. I promised to stop associating with my brother. Can you let me move back to the Miller family?" My mom only said one word, "Get out." Chelsea's thoughts were already transparent. She had been poor since childhood and was afraid, thinking that since she couldn't inherit the family business, being a young madam was not bad. She and Mike were both scoundrels. After they left, the whole world became quiet. I stayed by the hospital room. Luckily, Dad was recovering well. A week later, I picked up Dad and we went home. Later on one occasion when Dad drank too much, he asked me if I hated Mike, if I hated him for causing my death in the previous life. I shook my head. I believed that he truly loved Chelsea, just not deeply enough. In front of Chelsea, he was willing to abandon me, but in front of the family fortune, he was willing to give up everything. Mike was such a realistic person. 6 months later, I successfully graduated from university and received an offer from a prestigious foreign institution. I was torn between pursuing further studies abroad and inheriting the family business. My parents firmly supported my decision to go abroad, saying that I had endured hardships for the first 20 years of my life. All they could do to make up for it was to fulfill all my desires and let me do whatever I wanted. My dad showcased his still robust biceps. "Dad can still guard the family business for you. It won't be too late for you to take over after you graduate," he said. So I chose to pursue my master's degree abroad. In the days leading up to my departure, I couldn't wait to cling to my parents. Later, my parents took me to change my name and I finally had my own surname. Looking at the name Jenny Miller on my ID card, tears welled up in my eyes as I repeatedly caressed those characters. My mom, feeling sorry for me having endured so much, preemptively transferred the family's real estate to my name. I refused to take it, but she said it was to cut off Mike's ambitions. Mike was indeed restless. He occasionally sent things our parents liked to the house, but they were always thrown out. Later, he started calling me, but his calls were always hung up by the butler or the nanny. Eventually, Mike began to harass me. He cursed me as a devil from birth who would harm others, saying he wished he had drowned me in the lake when I was 2 years old. Unfortunately, no matter how malicious his words were, they couldn't stir any emotions in me. The already minimal bond between us had completely dissipated. After blocking Mike, I lived a few peaceful days, but then Chelsea began to harass me again. Whenever I answered the phone, she would burst into tears. "Jenny, don't hang up, please help me." She was always the best at pretending to be pitiful. Although I didn't hang up, I only wanted to see what scene she was acting out. "Jenny, I'm pregnant. I've been kicked out by Mike and I don't have a penny. Can you help me?" She became increasingly agitated, even crying out loud. "Mike, that bastard, got fired and has been drinking at home, and he stole the house too. I'm really desperate." I let out an, "Oh, that's why you should go to the police." After saying that, I hung up the phone. Later, Chelsea still found my parents and confessed her pregnancy. My parents, fearing she might lose hope, agreed to give both of them some money as long as they lived well and raised their child. Mike agreed. On the wedding day, none of us 3 attended. I knew in our hearts that Mike only agreed to the marriage for the money. Less than a month after their wedding, Chelsea had a miscarriage. Mike probably saw the child as a burden or was driven by his primal instincts. After drinking too much, he beat Chelsea into a miscarriage. As a result, he went to jail for rehabilitation. My parents didn't come to his aid and focused solely on me. Every item I needed while studying abroad was carefully selected by them. The night before I left, I suddenly had a change of heart. "Dad, Mom, I think I shouldn't go after all. Although the competition is intense in the country, I can still try my best." My mom's index finger tapped my forehead, a strong form of control from the older generation. No nonsense, you can go because you're excellent. You must seize this opportunity. My dad also watched me smile from the side. If you miss home, you can come back anytime. It's not like you can't afford a plane ticket. Even though she said this, the inner reluctance still tormented me. Early the next morning, I cried in my bed. My eyes were constantly red. At the security check, I hugged my parents goodbye. Don't stay up late, don't eat junk food, and take your medicine on time. My dad nodded and my mom patted my shoulder. Safe travels. As I stepped out, I looked back and in a daze seemed to see the Jenny from my previous life waving at me through the crowd. Her lips moved as if saying, "This time make sure to be truly happy." I nodded and silently vowed I will.